How's she going, boys? Mike here. Welcome back to Grampie's Workshop. I love when you drop by the shop. And today we're into a pneumatic air job. I got my compressor there set up to where I want it. And what we're up to today is I want to pipe from the compressor to a regulator and filter, to a stop valve, and then down to my hose reel. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want to leave air pressure on my hose all the time. And that's what I was doing before. And there's a reason why I'm not going to do that, and I'll tell you about that near the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, let's get at her, and we're going to mount a regulator, filter, stop valve, and pipe in my hose reel. So I'm going to put my air regulator right up here. That's the plan. So I'm not sure how big of a job it's going to be, but let's see. Well, it didn't happen that quick. Let's go back and have a look exactly how we ended up putting that panel here. Now this little bracket is where I had some air accessories, so I have to take that out. Of course I had scrap wood laying around the shop. Piece of 3/4 plywood here. Be nice if it was a little longer. Alright, I settled on putting my panel right here. And I'm going to put my shutoff, I think, right here. And part of the reason I decided to do that, or not my shutoff, my filter and my regulator, is because this part of the regulator here is sort of like a water trap. And I'll be draining water out of that. This is a lubricator side, so there'll be maybe some oil, probably, dripping from that. So I wanted to locate it far enough away from my hose reel that it wouldn't be dripping on that, be just dripping down onto the floor. And then that gives me a nice spot on this side for a curve for the hose coming in. And then I'm going to locate my shutoff here. And then there's going to be a T-fitting here. So one line is going to come back down to my hose reel. The other line is going to go distribute air throughout the shop. So I'm going to put a couple of holes in here and mount this regulator. And then I'm going to make a block, come up with some sort of mounting bracket or block or something here to hold this shutoff valve. So what I'm up to is I'd like to make a bracket to hold this little shutoff valve that I have for my airline. So I just took a little piece of the airline and stuck it on there, determined that that was about 3/4 of an inch. No, it's less than 3/4 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I took a block of wood. I'm going to drill a hole right down through the middle here. This block is about 4 or 5 inches long. I'm going to try and drill a hole right down through the middle of it. And then I'm going to rip it in half, and then I'm going to dado the middle out so that the body of the valve will be able to rest in that. Drill a couple of holes through it and make a bracket out of it, or a mount. We'll see how it goes. So that's as far down as I could go with that one. I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to raise the table. So now I'm going to start up and try to drill that again, see what happens. So there's a good example of why you should clamp your work. Anyways, nothing too serious happened. It just started to come through the end here. Alright, so this hole here, this cutout is a little rough. So I just took some 100 weight sandpaper on a piece of doweling. It doesn't have to be great because it's going to be hidden by the airline. Okay, and we'll put a couple screws in there so that I can mount it. Okay, so I'm going to have a T right here so that one of the lines will come down and go right here to my hose reel. The other line is going to go up for distribution. So somewhere in between that, I need to mount this little block to hold the shut off. I'm going to put this fitting in here. So I've got Teflon tape on the thread of it. And you don't want it singing tight because I've done that before and broken things, right? Now I'm going to take the whip and mount it on here. And get my gear clamp. And then tighten this up here. Alright, so I've got the whip piped in now, and I put a little clamp on it here just to give it a little strain relief on that line. And that's going to go down to the compressor. So now I want to mount my shutoff valve right here. So now I need to cut a piece of hose, I don't know, that long. This fitting here, by the way, I put Teflon tape in and tightened it on there. So I put one gear clamp, make sure I have these oriented the right way, like that and like that. That should work. So now this goes in here. And then this gear clamp will go here. So that should work good. So now what I need to do is make a little whip temporary to go from this outlet down here and connect to my hose reel. I don't want to use up more hose than I need, but eventually the T is going to be about here. And I'll need to run the line down to the hose reel, if you can see all this. So this should be long enough right here. So I'll cut the hose off here. So this will go on up here. And then this gear clamp is going to go in there, and then I'll just connect that to my spool. Just tap that in for now because this is all going to be coming off once I put my T in there, right? Okay, so that's on, that's off. Let's put my pressure gauge in now. Of all the fittings I've put together so far, this is the only one that really needs to be oriented the correct way. So we'll see. I expect it's going to come tight when the gauge is sort of like that orientation, but I hope it comes tight when it's up. Oh, maybe I'm going to luck out here. There. Okay, so I've got my whip down to the compressor, up to the regulator. Don't know what the regulator is set to. And then this is going to be a water filter. This is going to be an oiler. And I don't have any oil put in that just yet, but that's okay. And then a shut-off valve, and then that goes down to the spool. So I'm going to plug this into the compressor now, see what happens. I don't hear any leaks. So there we're coming up to pressure. And still no leaks. We're going to turn this valve on now. So that pressurized my hose. You can see this gauge changing if I draw pressure. So that's good. Now I can close this off and take the pressure off the hose. So no leaks in my hose, that's good. No leaks up here. My valve, my shutoff valve works good. I'm happy about that. But I'll tell you something about this orange hose. This is called well, actually I'll show you what it is. I have another one right here. I got this at Prince's Auto. It's called Grip. Grip is the name of it. It's 50 feet by 3/8 hybrid air hose. Good for 300 psi. And if you look at the specs on it, it says hose stays flexible under extreme conditions and temperatures of -40 degrees. Well, this hose was not flexible, it was stiff. Weather, oil, and solvent resistant, that could be. Solid brass 1/4 inch fittings, yes. I'd have to say the fittings are decent on it. But other than that, I'm taking that hose back because I don't know whether you can see it here on video or not, but I was leaving the air pressure on my hose. I always did that with when I had this rubber 50-foot hose on there. I always left air pressure on the hose. When you read about it, it says you shouldn't leave pressure on your hose. So when I was checking my hybrid hose, this is supposed to be the ideal hose, right? Look, if you can see that, there's bubbles coming on the skin of it. Now it's not leaking, but it's bubbling up. Like right here at this joint is made. It's like I can push that in with my thumb. So that tells me that the inner liner is leaking and leaking bad, and it's coming through that inner liner and forming bubbles here in the hose, and they're all along the length of it. So, and this hose was not flexible. When I come out in the shop and it's cold, like it's not too bad here today, right now, and this hose is not bad, but when it's cold, like below zero, no. This hose is as stiff as a board. It won't roll up right on my spool, goes wherever it wants. As soon as I can replace it, the better I'll be. So this hybrid air hose, no good. Don't spend your money on it. So there we go. I got my regulator and filters installed. I think that's going to work good. And then in an upcoming video, I'll be able to finish the distribution line throughout the shop. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be exciting. And also, this hose that I bought, that hybrid hose, I don't know whether it's just this make that I bought or what, but I wouldn't get hybrid hose. It's like I was saying, it's just too stiff. And all those bubbles coming in the skin of it, man, it's only, you know, it's going to take no time at all, and this hose will be garbage. And that's what it was. I should never have bought it. Anyways, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad you dropped by. And for my regular viewers, thanks a million for all your support. Don't forget, everybody, thumbs up me. You can subscribe if you want to. And sharing the video is not a bad thing to do. I hope you have a great week. Stay warm, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll talk to you.